Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about how do I find money to invest in the stock market. I think that's the very first concern most people have is how to actually find the spare cash to invest. Well, I think there is a very simple rule. Simply spend less than what you make. That's it. Short and sweet. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously there's more to it. It's easier said than done. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. The main, I think, is because everywhere you turn, there's a pressure to spend money. Like all the commercials on TV, it's all about you spending your money. Whether it's buying a new car, or taking that vacation, or buying the latest iPhone. Like if you think about it, Western economy, it's pretty much based on the consumer spending. And it doesn't actually stop there. Even if you don't have the money, there's credit cards companies. If you think about it, it's actually a little bit insane. Basically, what they're saying is if you don't have the money to spend, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You can borrow from us, you can spend it, buy things you don't need, and then pay us with the 20 or 25% interest. But a lot of people fall for it, right? And I think it's just the peer pressure. The whole thing about keeping up with the Jonases, right? Your neighbor has a nice car. You want to have something nice. Maybe not necessarily better, but something equal. Then, even as we're growing up, right, we are told you have to go to college, you have to get a degree, you have to get a good job, you have to buy a nice car, you have to buy a big house. But for most, to do that, you have to go into debt. Most people don't actually make enough money to buy all those things right from the beginning. And so the whole system actually set up for us to get into debt and just work and work and work just to pay it off. And who are we paying it to? We're paying it to the big corporations who actually make money off us. And so you either spend the money on those items and make somebody else rich, or you don't spend the money, you don't buy those things, and instead you invest into those companies and let somebody else buy the product and make you rich. It's actually an interesting concept if you think about it. For example, investing in the financial institutions. Like I said, you either can borrow the money and then pay the credit card 25-30% interest a year, or you buy a bank stock and make 5-6% dividend every year. Plus the fact that over the time, most likely the stock value will increase. And how can they actually afford to pay 5-6% dividend? It's because of people who get the credit and then later pay 30% interest. That's how they can actually afford it. Even when they make bad loans to organizations or individuals, they can still get away with it. I like the idea of paying yourself first, which is something I heard about 6-7 years ago. But the idea is basically instead of giving your money to somebody else, invest it into yourself. Pay yourself first. I know a lot of people may say, well, I don't make as much money. Let's say, you make 40,000 a year. If only I was making 60,000, I would have so much to invest. I have news for you. It doesn't actually work like that. Because the more you make, the more you tend to spend. And so it's actually never enough. Years ago, I knew a person, he worked as a lawyer, and honestly, he was making about 300,000 a year. Just think about it, 300,000 a year. To me, that's crazy amount of money. And yet, the person actually had less than me. He didn't have his own house. He was driving all the cars that were leased. And he would buy Porsche, drive it for a year, sell it, lose money. He buys an Escalade, drives it for a year, sell it, lose money. And so, honestly, making 300,000 a year, he was actually poorer than me. And you also have to really think what being wealthy really means to you. Does it mean simply to be able to drive a Porsche, or having financial freedom and not having to worry about working, being able to do what you actually want with your life, be it go on vacation or go travel the world. And that's where I think for everyone, being financially successful may mean different things. For me personally, what it means is I don't have to work 40-hour a week job, is that I'm able to travel, I am able to do what I want. If I want to work, fine, I'll work. If I don't want to work, then I won't work. And I can actually live my life. I have a roof over my head. I have food. That's all there is to it. There was time when, yes, I also wanted to drive the nicest car and have the nicest things. But over the years, I realized that that doesn't actually make you wealthy. You buy a nice car, unless you can actually afford it, then you have the payments. Once you bought the nice car, well, now you have to work for it. And then you're stuck with the 5 or 6 years payments. And a lot of people actually buy cars that they can't even afford, simply for the status. And the funny part is, buying something like a Mercedes, actually a worse choice than buying something like a Toyota Camry. If you listen to any auto mechanic, they will tell you Mercedes breaks down 10 times more than Toyota Camry. I mean, if you really want status symbol, buy a Lexus. It's cheaper and it's actually reliable. And that's another thing, actually. Beside the fact that you're going to spend a lot on Mercedes, it's going to cost so much to fix it. And then you're going to be wasting your money. So of course you're not going to have money to invest, because now everything has to go into your car just so you can show it off to somebody else. And I understand, like I said, there is this peer pressure everywhere we look. The whole system tells us you have to buy, you have to spend, you have to drive the nicest car, you have to have the nicest things, you have to have the Gucci bag and brand name jeans and brand name shoes. But basically it comes down to a choice. What's more important to you? The status symbol, or knowing that you are financially independent, that you're financially successful? Because don't forget, whenever you actually see somebody driving in Mercedes, or you see somebody living in a nice house, you have no idea how they actually got it, right? They could be working 3 jobs just to pay it all. If it's a family, for all you know, they could be fighting every evening because of the finances. By the way, finances is the number one reason people get divorced. So you don't know it. All you see is that somebody has a Mercedes in their driveway. But you have no idea what's happening in their household. You have no idea what's happening in their bank account. And so, a long time ago, I already decided that I don't need to impress anybody. For 14 years, I was actually driving a Honda Accord. Just a few months ago, it broke down completely on me, and I decided to purchase a new car. But yes, 14 years I was driving the same car. And when everyone was telling me, you should get a new car, even my own parents, my answer was, why? My 14-year-old Honda Accord does exactly the same thing that a $100,000 Mercedes. It gets me from point A to point B. What else do I need? A lot of people buy, cars that are loaded, leather seats, like this amazing stereo, dual climate control. I always like to say that when I'm buying a car, I'm buying a car. I'm not buying a couch on wheels, so I don't need leather seats. I'm not buying an entertainment system on wheels, so I don't care about stereo all that much. And for dual climate control, why? If somebody wants to ride in the car with me, they can tolerate the temperature that I'm set for myself. Really, not the end of the world. And quite often, to go with the loaded car, you're spending extra 25-30% of the value of the car, where it's actually exactly the same car mechanically. Mechanically, it's exactly the same car. It's simply all the bells and whistles. Well, I don't need it. When time came to replace my 14-year-old Honda Accord. I bought a car, base model. It's good enough for me. And that leaves me enough money that I can actually invest every single month. Because I don't have a lot of payments. I hate paying interest on anything. I think it's been like 15 years since I paid any interest on a credit card. And that allows me to save. And there's a lot of different ways you can save, right? For example, banks charge transaction fees and stuff unless you have minimum amount, which is like a couple $1,000s. Well, if you calculate the minimum amount compared to how much they charge in a month, it ends up that the fees being equivalent to about 5% a year. Well, that's 5% guaranteed. That's actually very good. So what do? I always make sure I have a couple $1,000s in the bank account so that I never pay bank fees. Restaurants. Do I go to restaurants much? Not really. Because if you think about it, eating in restaurants, you pay about 4 to 5 times more than what you pay at home. I mean, you can buy very nice steak, make very nice dinner for like, I don't know, $10, $15. The same dinner at a restaurant will be actually even more, it will be like $100. It's actually more than just 4 or 5 times. More like 6 or 7 times. I go to a restaurant on a birthday, like special days, right? Parents' birthday, girlfriend's birthday, that kind of stuff. But to go 3 times a week, it's a waste of money. Again, don't get me wrong. If you have a lot of disposable income, nothing wrong with it, right? Maybe your time worth actually more than the time to cook the dinner. But for me, no, I don't have as much disposable income, so I actually try to save anywhere I can. What else do? I fix my own car. Believe it or not, my 14-year-old Honda Accord, been to a mechanic once. That's after 12 years. The first 12 years, never been to mechanic, never been to a dealership. I basically bought some few tools. It cost me upfront cost maybe like $150. And after that, I was doing all my own maintenance. And that's actually a lot of money, Like to change the brake fluid, you go take it to a dealership, it costs you $120. I do it myself, it costs me $20. And I know when I talk about it with one of my friends, he tells me, well, I don't have time to do it myself. But my thought on it is, it actually takes less time if you do it yourself. If I have to do it myself, literally I have to lift the car and change the brake fluid. It will take me about, I don't know, an hour to take it somewhere else to have brake fluid changed. Let's see, I have to drive there, so it's like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I have to leave my car there for half a day, and then I have to go back. So it's actually less time to do it yourself. And that's how I end up saving money. Always look for opportunity, right? And don't forget, so you change it yourself, you do it for $20. You take it to a dealership, they change it for you, it's $120, let's say. So it's $100 difference. Well, it's not the same as you making $100. It's actually the equivalent of you making $130. Because don't forget, you have to pay tax. That's $100 after tax. I don't make $130 at my regular job, not even close. So yeah, I actually choose to do all those things myself. And yeah, there's a learning curve, but honestly, you buy a few tools, there's lots of videos on YouTube how to do it, and just do it yourself. And then you end up having cash to invest. For those of you who seen my previous videos, you know that I started investing only a few years ago. And honestly, once I started seeing the result, I wish I started doing it earlier. Like, in my opinion, if you start investing and you're serious about it, within 10 years you can retire. And it's not like I don't do absolutely nothing. I just choose what I actually spend my money on, right? Every year, I still go on vacations. Every single year. Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii probably 11 times. Every single year for the last 10 years. So I simply choose what I spend my money on. A lot of work with my car, I do myself. Around the house, I try to do it myself. I just basically look at, does it make sense for me to do it myself? And if I'm saving more than $50-$60 an hour, then yeah, I do it myself. If you're making less, if you're making $15 or $20 an hour, well, then you may be looking at, if I'm saving $30 an hour, then I might as well do it myself. And that's equivalent of you picking up another job, right? So I hope you found this video interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Take care.